bummy today. You was bony and looking too funny today. I don't care, nigga still make change. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Chatting with Cheeze podcast. I'm your host, Fat Cheeze, and y'all already know the motto: no gimmicks, only the real. This is episode 47, and y'all know what I need from y'all. Continue to smash that subscribe button. We are on our way to 300 subscribers, and also do not forget to like and share the content when it drops, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first and foremost, I'm going to start off like this. I stopped watching the Western Conference Finals to come shoot this episode for y'all. So you know if I'm doing that, I'm hurt right now, but I gotta lock in with my people because y'all lock in with me. So I appreciate y'all for tapping in each and every week. And like I said before, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So with this first topic right here, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this topic or not, but it's been making its rounds, and I said, you know, it will only be right if I go ahead and get my 2 cents on it. So this past weekend, we all know was the kickoff of the new WNBA regular season. The new season began. A lot of hectic topics, you know, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese's second year. You got a bunch of new exciting rookies coming in. So they kicked it off this weekend, and on Saturday, you had the Indiana Fever versus the Chicago Sky. Of course, you know, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, that whole headline. But unfortunately, the headline that came out of this game was not the one that people like myself was looking forward to. Unfortunately, it came out with some controversy. So I want to give my thoughts on the whole Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese situation, also the RG3 comments on X and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and read some stuff off, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on it. So starting out, Caitlin Clark's dazzling triple-double during the Indiana Fever's 93-58 blowout win over the Chicago Sky should have been the defining moment of the WNBA season opener. But as has often been the case with Clark and her chief rival Angel Reese, the spotlight shifted away from the basketball and onto controversy. This time it stemmed from a third-quarter flagrant foul committed by Clark and an emotionally charged reaction from Reese. Okay, I'm going too fast. So first and foremost, I'm gonna start out with the flagrant foul, right? And let me just jump right in and start off by saying this. I'm a fan of competitiveness. I'm a huge sports guy. I'm a fan of competitiveness. If you've been watching the NBA or any contact sport, you know, for all your life, like myself, you know, in the NBA, we see hard fouls all the time. Sometimes they escalate, sometimes they don't. With this whole Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark situation, I just haven't been a fan of the way all these narratives and the way that things have been handled leading up to this point. I stated back last year that I felt as though it was unfair to the fans, that people were basically making us choose sides. You know, either you have to be on Caitlin Clark's side or you have to be on Angel Reese's side. I never was a fan of that. I never liked the narratives that were being pushed out there about neither one of the females, neither one of these young ladies. They're both great athletes. You know, they're both doing amazing things while in college and now in the WNBA. And, you know, the whole thing to me hasn't been a good look, because I understand right now the WNBA is in a state where they want to be paid and looked at as an equal to men's basketball and things of that nature. And I feel like trying to push controversy amongst the women is just not the right thing to go, not the right way to go. But I understand that drama sells. When I watched that game, and first, before I speak on it, shouts out to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark had an amazing game with her triple-double. She looked phenomenal. She picked up right where she left off at the end of last season, heading into this season. When I was watching the game, and I watched the full game, the Chicago Sky, and they kept it close for a while, and then Indiana just started to pull away. When I seen that foul happen, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I seen the way Angel Reese reacted to it and everything like that. I knew what exactly would come out of this, because this all people been looking for all along. Now, whether you feel like Angel Reese flopped, or whether you feel like, you know, the foul wasn't that hard, or she deserved it because of the shove to Aaliyah Boston, whatever you feel, right? This is my question that I have for everybody that's going against Angel Reese, right? If the shoe was on the other foot, and it was Angel Reese who did a flagrant foul like that on Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese is still the bad guy out of this situation. My point in saying that is Angel Reese has to understand, and it's at the forefront now, that she can never be right. Because there's a cult and group of people out here that just dislike her. The narratives are already out there. She can never be right. Regardless if you feel as though it was a flop, or you feel like she overreacted or whatever. Me personally, now people could say I'm wrong. I feel like there was intent behind the foul. Not only was it a hard foul, you knocked her to the ground. It was the stare back, the look back while Angel Reese was on the ground. I don't feel like, and I could be absolutely wrong, but I don't feel like Angel Reese reacts the way that she does to the foul if she didn't feel like there was intent behind what Caitlin Clark did. I don't feel like the refs call it a flagrant if they didn't feel as though there was no intent and it was just a regular basketball play. But Angel Reese, and it's unfortunate for her, Angel Reese has been put in a position where it's like no matter what in a certain select group of people's eyes, she's never going to be right. And when she made her villain statement, I understood that, because in some people's eyes, she's just going to always be the villain. Now, if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Angel Reese that had the flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark, I can guarantee you we would have been talking about this thing for probably a month. Because if we take you back to last year when Kennedy Carter was getting crucified for bumping Caitlin Clark and, you know, doing what she did to her, it was an uproar. So at the end of the day, we got to keep the same energy when it comes to these situations. Because like I said before, if the roles was reversed, we know what it would have looked like, and what's the things that would have been said. And it's still being said now. And Angel Reese was the one who got knocked down to the ground, regardless of how you feel. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like the narratives that's being pushed. I don't like the fact that, you know, and it's no blame to Caitlin Clark, because at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark can't control who supports her. But I just don't like the whole narrative. I just don't like the way this thing has been going. I've never been a fan of, you know, them painting them two against each other. I've just never been a fan of it. And honestly, Angel Reese reacting the way that she reacted was what everybody's been looking for forever. They've been looking for since these two have transitioned from college to the WNBA. People were just waiting on this moment. That's why when I seen the play, I knew what was going to happen. I knew the reaction that it would cause. And it's just unfair. I think it's unfair to Angel, and honestly, I think it's unfair to Caitlin as well too. Because I don't believe Caitlin Clark is a devious person. I don't believe that she's that type. And at the end of the day, these are two competitors. We see flagrant fouls and hard fouls in men's basketball all the time. Now, like I said, do I feel like there was intent behind the hard foul on Angel Reese? Absolutely, because we've seen she could have went and just wrapped her up. She chose not to do that. She chose the hard foul and make her fall to the ground. But at the end of the day, I don't believe Angel Reese reacts the way that she reacts if she didn't feel like that there was some ill intent behind it. And I understand, yes, should it have been called a foul with Angel Reese shoving Aaliyah Boston to the ground? Okay, I get that. I understand that. But that still doesn't make the whole situation right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't still make this whole thing right. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, because we've seen in the NBA, or if somebody's trying to intentionally foul, just wrap them up from not being able to attempt a shot. But to me, the hard hit and then the look back when she's on the ground, I feel like that it was ill intent to that. But that's just my opinion on it. And moving on from that, now I'm going to go ahead and jump into RG3's comments on X. So I'm going to read off RG3's tweets, and then I'm going to give you my reaction on what I think about that. So what he said was via X is, after watching Caitlin Clark's flagrant foul on Angel Reese in the aftermath, there is no way Angel Reese can continue to lie that she doesn't dislike Caitlin Clark, Griffin tweeted. I know what hate looks like. Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. It's staring us all right in the face, but people are afraid to say it. Won't answer questions about Caitlin Clark. Gets mad when people praise Caitlin Clark for the explosion of popularity around women's basketball. Celebrates when her teammates flagrantly foul Caitlin Clark. Goes after and tries to punch Caitlin Clark after a routine make them earn a foul after Angel Reese fouled Aaliyah Boston with a push in the back that wasn't called. That's not just hate, that's jealousy and resentment, etc. RG3 tweeted. My problem with RG3, and I'm gonna go ahead and straight out say it, RG3 is a clown. To me personally, for his tweet. And at the end of the day, my thoughts on this whole situation with him is, I'm not saying that just because you're an African American male that you should have to take up for African American female, but for you to push a narrative, continue to with the platform that you have, for you to continue to push a narrative that people already have of this young lady and add gasoline to it because you are African American male, you were a pro athlete, and for you to add gasoline onto that, I just feel like that's corny, bro. Like, that's corny. Some certain situations you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. You did that as a way. I don't know if it was a clickbait thing, or I don't know if you was trying to, I don't know what your goal was. You were trying to appease a certain crowd. I don't know. But that's all around corny of you, bro. That's all around corny of you. And for you to be a quarterback who at one particular time in your career had criticism and narratives pushed your way, for you to turn around and to try to pander to these people that's pushing these narratives about Angel Reese, that's goofy. That's goofy. You don't earn no cool points for that. And then for you to turn around and double down, you don't know Angel Reese feelings. Have you had a conversation with her? Do you know what's going on? How do you know? For you to throw that word hate out there because you want to paint Angel Reese in the light of the angry black woman, and then have, you know what I'm saying? And then you want Caitlin Clark to be the victim, and you want to paint Angel Reese as the angry black woman, which is not cool at all, bro. Which is not cool at all. You don't know her feelings towards. You don't know their feelings towards each other. You not in their minds. You don't know what's going on. You just tried to get some clickbait or tried to go up off a tweet or whatever the case may be, and that's weird to me. And let me address the jealousy. Let me address the jealousy and envy, and the jealousy and resentment and envy comment that you made. Last time I checked, Angel Reese is a national champion. Last time I checked, Angel Reese was a top 10 draft pick in the WNBA draft. Last time I checked, Angel Reese was a front runner for the Rookie of the Year award last year before injuring her wrist, having to sit out for the remainder of the season. Last time I checked, Angel Reese has a shoe deal with Reebok. I'm trying to figure out what envy and jealousy is there. You talking as if Angel Reese is a bum. She's not a bum. So why are you talking about envy, jealousy? Jealous of what? Okay, that's fine. Caitlin Clark may be a little more. Me personally, I don't feel like Caitlin Clark is more popular than Angel Reese, because I feel like their popularity is honestly equal due to the fact of they both piggyback off each other. But I don't get the envy, the jealousy statement and the resentment. Why? For what? She don't have no reason to be. Angel Reese has commercials. Angel Reese is in music videos. Angel Reese is everywhere. What reason would she have to be jealous and envious of Caitlin Clark? They both phenomenal basketball players, and they both are bringing the WNBA up. They're rising it. They haven't been this much attention on the WNBA before Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese arrived there. Not just Caitlin Clark. Come on, bro. Like, you a clown for that. You're a clown for that. And I 100% agree with the things that Ryan Clark had to say about you, because he right. I don't care who mad about it or whatever. The truth is the truth. You don't have no, like, come on, bro, stop it. You the same person who they was putting narratives out there and talking about you being hard-headed, you being a bad teammate, you being stubborn to work with, your dad interfering in stuff with the Washington Redskins franchise. They was putting those same things out there about you. So how would you feel if somebody who you look at, or somebody who has a bigger platform, pushing those narratives about you, but you decided to do that with Angel? That's weird, bro. and real quick, and I wrote this down. I'm gonna read off a report that was written about RG3 in 2018. I'm gonna read off a report, and I'm not gonna try to be long-winded, but let me read off this report that somebody wrote about him in 2018. In the face of adversity, the Washington Redskins have discovered two things about RG3. He is an extremely hard-headed young man, and he has an interfering father. Those dual issues will have a significant impact on owner Daniel Snyder after the season when he decides what to do about the strained relationship between his star quarterback and coach Mike Shanahan. The issues have came to a head in the past 2 weeks and collided with the strong-willed coach. Griffin's stubbornness was crystallized by a moment in a recent game after he threw an errant pass and the offensive series ended. He came to the sideline and talked with quarterbacks coach Matt LaFleur, who was in the coach's booth, not on the sideline as originally reported. LaFleur, a former quarterback who never played in the NFL but has coached in the league for 6 years, began explaining to Griffin that part of the problem with the throw was his poor footwork, an issue that many observers around the league have noted about Griffin as he has struggled this season. As LaFleur continued to talk, Griffin grew impatient and brushed off the instructions. "I just have to make that throw," Griffin said, according to two team sources who were aware of the conversation. The reaction was not considered mean-spirited, but it was dismissive and spoke to a larger issue of how difficult Griffin has become to coach this season as he has struggled with physical limitations from his knee injury at the end of the 2012 playoffs. In addition, Griffin's father has increasingly become the kind of nuisance that some people warned NFL executives about before the 2012 draft. In recent weeks, according to two sources close to the situation, the elder Griffin has politics Snyder to hire Baylor coach Art Browse, who coached the younger Griffin to a Heisman Trophy, to replace Shanahan. This was wrote about RG3 in 2018. So how would you have felt if somebody took those same narratives, ran them, and pushed them on you, and you weren't able to build a platform after your football career ended? Because let's be honest, you after that rookie season in Washington, your career went off a cliff after that. If we being honest, you're no longer at ESPN. You were able to parlay a media career after you left the NFL. You no longer with ESPN. They got rid of you over there. They said you were hard to deal with over there, but you wouldn't like it if people pushed those narratives on you. But you found it okay to get on your platform and say that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, and you don't know that to be true. That's why I said it had to be clickbait, or you were just kissing somebody's butt and wanted to push a narrative or whatever you want to try to do. I don't know, and I don't get it. But you a clown for that, bro. And at the end of the day, what you did wasn't cool. It wasn't cool for nobody, and it shouldn't even been cool. People in your circle should have even told you that wasn't cool to do. Because at the end of the day, this still is a young woman that's doing good for herself. She's still trying to build her brand and, still growing. And at the end of the day, it's competition. It's competition. We see hard fouls all the time in men's basketball. We never spend a week or 2 weeks talking about it. But now, since it was an Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark situation, now people want to blow it up and make it bigger than what it is. It's competitive basketball. The refs called it a flagrant, and we moved on. But this is where we at. Like I said, I've never been a fan of people putting these two against each other. I've never been a fan of that. Both of these girls are excellent basketball players. They're uplifting the WNBA as a whole, and I'm happy to see that because it actually got me tuned in. You know what I'm saying? But we got to kill these narratives trying to paint one as one thing and the other. We got to stop that, man. We really got to stop that, and we got to leave this in the past. What happened between them in college and all that, okay, we enjoyed that. We move on now. But we got to let this go. But RG3, you a clown for that, bro. And I wanted to make sure, I wasn't going to talk about this topic, but I wanted to make sure that I emphasize that before, you know what I'm saying, I move on. But, yeah, man, you a clown for that, and I'm going to leave it where it's at. You know what I'm saying? And we going to see what happens from here on out. But moving on to my next topic. So, it's playoff, it's Eastern Conference Finals time, Western Conference Finals time. We in the thick of things right now. Round 2 had some great series going on. Now we move on to the ECF and WCF, and I put down my matchup that I'm most excited to see this conference finals. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I kind of struggle with this one because I'm really excited to see this Knicks Pacers series, but at the same time, when I seen that OKC would be playing Minnesota, I'm excited to see that one too. I told you I was in the middle of watching and I had to come shoot because you got young Anthony Edwards, possible, MJ Jr. going up against SGA, MVP. That's going to be a hell of a series. But the matchup that I'm most excited to see in these conference finals, I went with the Eastern Conference Finals, the New York Knicks and the Pacers. The reason for me being so excited for this series is because I think this has become a mini rivalry, especially after last year, the Knicks feeling like that they could have beat Indiana if they would have been able to stay healthy. Brunson ended up getting injured. OG Anunoby ended up getting injured. And the Knicks felt like they could have won that series if it wasn't for, their injuries. So now you got the rematch with higher stakes, the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm very excited to see this matchup. So New York went 2-1 against Indiana during the regular season, with the two teams swapping blowouts. Although we can't overly rely on those games to predict postseason results, there are insights to glean. The Knicks need to win this series on defense. In all 3 games against the Pacers, they score above 120 points and have some glaring advantages on the offensive end. But it's a matter of how much they can slow the Pacers on the other end. Tyrese Halliburton, who is averaging 17.5 points and 9.3 assists this postseason, the neutral matchup for him is Mikal Bridges, who possesses the speed and length to handle someone of Halliburton's size and dexterity. There's also Pascal Siakam, the mid-post monster, currently averaging 19 points on 55% shooting in the playoffs. He's a tough cover for smaller wings like Josh Hart and OG Anunoby and can punish them on the offensive glass. So it will be curious to see if head coach Tom Thibodeau maybe employs Towns on him for stretches. Brunson in full playoff mode, who gave the Pacers fits when they met last year. There's no real one-on-one answer for him, but expect a lot of Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard to try to bother him with size. Towns has owned this matchup all year, averaging 30.3 points and 12 rebounds in those 3 games. Turner can be his effective self defensively, having to stretch out to guard Towns, who has a mobility edge and can blow by him if he's out of position. I'm going to be honest, I feel like this is going to be an excellent series. I feel like this series can go 7 games because I just think that this series for the Knicks is going to be completely different than when they played Boston, because I just feel like the depth that Indiana has. If Indiana can manage to get the same production that they were able to get in that Cleveland series against the Knicks, with Halliburton playing at the level that he's playing at. I think that the pace, people sleeping on the Pacers, bro. Like, I've been hearing a lot about the Knicks, and I understand the Knicks. The Knicks did their thing, but I don't think people really been paying attention to what the Indiana Pacers have been doing, not only on the defensive end, but what they're giving you on the offensive end as well too. And I know a lot of people want to say, "Oh well, Cleveland was injured, so well, guess what? Cleveland had all their guys in games 4, 5, and I believe in games 4 and 5, and they ended up, guess what? They ended up going home. They ended up losing that series because Indiana's been playing some good ball. Rick Carlisle got them boys playing good. And the main thing for me, like I said before, was going to be the main factor for the Indiana Pacers is what can you get from the others. I feel like Tyrese Halliburton, we know kind of what he can give you. He just gotta be the same guy that he was in this last series. But guys like Andrew Nembhard, who's been averaging 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists. In 6 games, he has scored 15 plus in this playoffs in totality. Andrew Nesmith, 12 points, 4 rebounds, a half of assists. In 5 games, he scored 15 points this playoffs. Those 2 guys are going to be important because those are the guys that's going to have to knock down their open shots. When Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam are trying to attack and clog that middle, they're going to look for those guys to kick it out to, and they're going to have to knock down their open shots. Those 2, to me, are going to be the most important in this series because I feel like they can offset what you get from Josh Hart, because Josh Hart can give you a game where he might go off, and OG Anunoby can give you a game where he can go off, and also Mikal Bridges. Those 2 guys, to me, if they could step their game up and play the way that they've played in the last series, I feel like they could neutralize that from on the Knicks side. Miles Turner averaging 15.6 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists in 7 games this playoffs. He's had 15 or plus more points. And then, of course, I just spoke on Pascal Siakam. 20.2 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 7 games where he scored 15 plus this playoff. So they have guys who can score on the offensive side of the ball. The main thing is, can your others step up and continue to do what they did in this last series versus the Cavaliers? Also to mention, can they slow the Knicks down on the defensive side? I believe the main thing is going to be for them, can you contain Brunson and can you slow down Karl Anthony Towns? Because those 2 are, to me, are the most important pieces for the Knicks. Cat has been huge in these playoffs. Brunson has been, to me, I'm going to be honest with you, I think other than probably Shai Gilgeous and maybe you could throw Jokic, I think Jalen Brunson has been in the top 3 best players in the playoffs, period. Jalen Brunson is playing out of his mind. I think if the Pacers could manage to just slow Brunson down and contain Cat and make them depend on the others like Mikal Bridges, Anunoby, Josh Hart, McBride off the bench, if they can I like the Pacers' chances if they can do that. The Pacers are 8th in defensive rating this postseason. Like I said, yeah, they're gonna have to. This is gonna have to be a defensive battle. Who can slow the other team's guys down? I feel like that's who's gonna be. Can the Pacers slow down Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns? And can the Knicks slow down Tyrese Halliburton, I would say Tyrese Halliburton and Siakam. Not trying to discredit Miles Turner, but I think Siakam more of is a bigger factor than Miles Turner. But to me, that's what it's going to come down to. And I feel like the same thing for the Knicks. They're going to need their others to step up. The same way I said Nembhard, Nesmith, and those guys are going to have to step up. Also, Thomas Bryant, he can give you a little something off the bench. He's a sleeper. But I feel like it's the same thing for the Knicks. Miles Bridges is going to have to be big in this series. Josh Hart is going to have to be big in this series. OG Anunoby is going to have to be big in this series. They're going to need those guys to do stuff. McBride off the bench. They're going to need that production because the main focal point I feel like going into this series for the Pacers is going to be to slow down Brunson and slow down Cat. Mikal Bridges has averaged 11.7 points, 4.7 assists and 4.3 rebounds in 3 games against the Pacers this season. I'm going to need Mikal Bridges. If you want to be, Mikal Bridges probably going to have to bring that up to 15. 11.7 not going to cut it. He going to have to bring that up to 15. Josh Hart has averaged 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists in 3 games against the Pacers this season. Now, I don't know if Josh Hart can average 22 points, but if Josh Hart can, I say, average between 10 and 15, that range, 10 to 13, I think that'll be solid with Josh Hart because Josh Hart can contribute in so many ways. Scoring for him is second nature, is on the back burner. If he can give you that, that's just icing on the cake. You want Josh Hart crashing the glass, getting defensive stops, getting on the floor, that grittiness. That's what you want Josh Hart to do. And if he can add scoring, that's just icing on the cake. I think that would give the Knicks even more of an advantage. And OG Anunoby has averaged 19.5, 4.0 rebounds, and 1.5 assists in 2 games versus the Pacers. They're going to need OG Anunoby to be huge. They're going to need him to knock down those open shots like he did against Boston. You know, they're going to need that. But this series right here is going to be, man, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch this series. I think it's going to be fun. I think we are going to get 7 games out of this series, and the storyline has been built, and it even drizzled over to the WWE. You know what I'm saying? When you had Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson on WWE. So this is, I feel like it's a little rivalry here, and I think Tyrese Halliburton is hated in New York probably about the same amount as Trae Young. Like, it's neck and neck. And shout out to Tyrese Halliburton for being solid too, man. Paying for that Indiana fan who was getting trash thrown on him after the Knicks won that game, beat Boston. But this is gonna be a fun series, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to tune in, man. I'm gonna watch every game because I know this is gonna be fun, and I'm glad that the stakes have been risen. Now we looking at, you know, a chance to go to the NBA Finals. So this is gonna be fun. But that's the matchup that I'm most excited to see. And I can't wait, man. So put your seatbelts on, buckle in, because I think we in for a good one. And moving on to next, we're going to stick with the Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals. I'm going to give my prediction. So first, my predictions for who I think will win which series and in how many games. So this OKC and Timberwolves series, and I'm going to be honest, I literally stopped watching. I don't know what the score is right now or nothing. So right now, I don't know. I'm just this is what I'm going off of. So I went with, and this was a tough decision, man, because I'm a huge Ant fan. I'm a huge Nas Reed guy. I'm a big fan. I believe that I want Anthony Edwards to be the face of the league. Even though I know his stuff with off the court and the things that he said, but I'm a huge Anthony Edwards fan. I would love nothing but to see him go to the NBA Finals. But unfortunately, I went OKC over the Timberwolves in 6 games. But this is a toss-up for me, though. And the only reason why I really went OKC, and I'm going to be honest with you, is because originally when the playoffs first started, I had OKC coming out of the West. So I'm not going to change my pick, and I went OKC in 6 games. The season series between them in the regular season ended up being tied 2-2. OKC is currently number 1 in defensive rating this postseason, also number 1 in offensive rating. I believe SGA will continue his hot streak. SGA, to me, has been the best player in this entire playoffs. I don't feel like that he should be the MVP, but that's just my opinion. But SGA has had 7 30-plus point games this postseason. SGA has averaged 35 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 6.8 assists in 4 games versus the Timberwolves this season. Jalen Williams had 24 points. Jalen Williams is going to have to be big in this series. He's going to have to step up. He had 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists his last playoff game versus Denver, but he also can disappear at times. Jalen Williams is going to have to be important. You're going to have to stay consistent. He's going to need to have at least 15-plus points in each game this series. Nothing lower, nothing in between, because you're the second guy on the offensive side. You're that number 2. You were all-star this year. You're going to have to step up and have some big games this playoff series if OKC wants to win, because I'm going to tell you, Timberwolves are hungry. And we know what Shea going to give you, but he needs somebody to come along for that ride, and Jalen Williams, you got to be that guy. All that 8 points and 21 game and then 8 a neck, that ain't gonna cut it. You need a consistent 15 plus points a game and for OKC to secure this series. Lou Dort is going to have to knock down. Lou Dort is going to also have to knock down his open shots. You know that Minnesota is probably going to be willing to concede to allow him to shoot from the 3-point line. He's going to have to knock down his shots like he was doing in that Denver series. He's going to be an important factor to this series. And Chet needs to be that third option this series. These are my notes that I wrote down for what I think needs to happen for OKC to prove my prediction true and win this series. Chet is going to have to be big in this series. Chet is going to have to be that third option. So it goes SGA, Jalen Williams, and then it's going to have to be Chet. Chet is going to have to be solid on the offensive end. Also crash the glass. You just had to go through a whole series with Jokic. Now you transfer and you got to go to Gobert. Gobert is not the offensive threat, but he's definitely the defensive threat and can crash rebounds. But you do still have Hockenstein on the back end, but Chet's going to have to be big. I put Chet and Jalen Williams in that same category. Y'all going to have to piggyback off each other. Jalen Williams is going to have 15 plus consistently in this series, and I would say the same for Chet. Chet is going to have to be big, at least 10 to 13 points, maybe a double-double a game. You know what I'm saying? Chet going to have to be big in this series too. That's how I believe how close it is between them and Minnesota. And on the Minnesota end, Anthony Edwards is just going to have to be himself. People say Michael Jordan's son. Anthony Edwards is going to have to be Michael Jordan's son in this series because I felt like when I first seen the matchup that this was a bad defensive matchup for Anthony Edwards. But Anthony Edwards, you're going to have to be great. You're going to have to be what everybody think you are in this series, bro. Anthony Edwards has averaged 22.3 points, 9.3 rebounds, and 6 assists in 4 games against the Thunder this season. Julius Randle is going to have to be huge in this series. Julius Randle is going to have to be that number 2 option behind Ant on the offensive end. And if Julius Randle could step up and so happen push them to win this series, we're going to have to start putting some respect on Julius Randle's name because I've been one of them ones. And y'all know I'm willing to admit when I did it, I've been giving Julius Randle hell these past couple of years. He's been doing good in these playoffs. If Julius Randle can step up and be that number 2 option on the offensive end and propel Minnesota to a finals, Julius Randle going to get hella props from me. Julius Randle has averaged 11.6 rebounds, 6 assists in 1 game versus the Thunder. I'm going to need Julius Randle to bring that up at least to maybe 17, 18 points a game. At least. You know what I'm saying? And Naz Reid, he's going to have to be big, knock down open shots. If they want to go to that small ball lineup, make plays when they come your way, hit that corner jumper, they're going to need him if they want to win this series. He's averaged 22.5 points a game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists in 4 games versus the Thunder. And somebody need to put a SOS or something out for Dante DiVincenzo. They need you in this series, bro. Somebody put out a SOS, tap his phone, find out where he at. Whatever they need to do, somebody need to find out where Dante DiVincenzo at because you've been quiet, bro. You've been quiet. They're going to need you to hit them threes. They're going to need you to attack that glass, make the right plays. They need that Dante DiVincenzo that was in New York last postseason. They need him in this series because that's how good I think the Thunder are. And somebody's going to have to be there to take that slack off Anthony Edwards because we understand OKC is going to come in there with the mindset to not allow Anthony Edwards to beat them. So Dante DiVincenzo, they're going to have to put a SOS out for you or something because they need you. Timberwolves are 2nd in defensive rating this postseason. They are 4th in offensive rating this postseason. So, we know what they can do on the offensive end. And they gonna need to step up on the defensive end. And honestly, but I took OKC in 6, but don't get it twisted. This was a very tough decision for me because that's how fond I am of Minnesota. I think Minnesota are that good, and it would not shock me at all if Minnesota won this series. Honestly, that's how good I think Minnesota is. That's how good I think Anthony Edwards is. But I just had to go OKC. Just because I think that they went through a harder series just now, getting through Denver, whereas though Minnesota beat a Stephless Golden State team. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Minnesota won this series. But I went with OKC because of what they just went through, and also I picked them originally to come out of the Western Conference. So I'm going to stick with it. So I went OKC in 6 with that one. And on the Eastern Conference side of things, this might not be popular. I went Indiana Pacers in 7. And the reason why I went Indiana in 7 is because I believe with their depth, I believe with if Neesmith and Nembhard can give you the production that they've been giving you, also with Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, I think that if they can just find a way to shut down, if they could find a way to just contain Jalen Brunson and slow Cat down, and I think if they can get that production from those other guys, I think that the Pacers can pull this series out. The Pacers not getting that much love, bro. Like I really didn't sat and watched the Pacers. The Pacers have a good team. Rick Carlisle is a great coach, and I just think with the production that if they can get that same production, and if Tyrese Halliburton can be the same player, I think that Indiana could pull this one out, bro. Really, I really do. Pascal Siakam is a monster. I'm a Pascal Siakam guy myself. With what he can do, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, all they need is for those other guys to step up. Nembhard, Neesmith, knock down your open shots. Play good on the defensive end. Crash the glass. Get on the floor. You got to play the same type of game that New York is going to play. Gritty. Get on the floor. Physical. Remember, and I believe that Indiana can match their physicality. Cleveland was just complaining about their physicality. I believe that they can transfer that over and do the same thing in this New York series. And I got Indiana winning this series, bro. I got them winning in 7 games. I know it ain't popular, but that's just my opinion. Comment below and let me know y'all predictions on the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, man, and get back to try to at least watch the tail end of this game. I appreciate y'all for locking in with me each and every week. Y'all know where to find me. Do not forget to continue to smash that subscribe button. We are on our way to 300 subscribers. Also, do not forget to like and share the content when it drops. Follow me on all social media platforms, Instagram, X, TikTok. I got a Facebook as well too. And I appreciate everybody, all y'all for locking in with me each and every week, man. And I see y'all next time.